Donald Trump announced a 50% tariff on copper.
Today we're doing copper.
Copper, what would that tariff be on? The sectional tariff?
I believe the tariff on copper, we're going to make it 50%.
How much extra might your next car cost because of Trump's new copper tariffs? U.S. car prices could rise by $1,700 to $5,700 per vehicle, on top of today's average $46,233 sticker price. And it's not just cars. Copper's in everything from smartphones to home wiring. With electric vehicles using nearly 2.5 times more copper than gas-powered cars, what does this mean for your budget? Should protecting U.S. mining jobs come at the expense of higher prices for millions of Americans? And with the U.S. tariff rate now the highest since 1934, is this smart policy or risky politics? Hit subscribe for clear breakdowns that cut through the noise. Ready to dig into the real cost of copper tariffs? Let's get straight into it. President Donald Trump announced a 50% tariff on imported copper this week. It means the new tax on copper from other countries will start on August 1st, 2025, on motors and electric vehicle parts. Now, here's a question. Have you ever thought about how much copper goes into building a car? It's more than you might guess. An average hybrid car uses about 53 pounds of copper, while electric vehicles need around 130 pounds. With this tariff, copper prices on the U.S. COMEX platform soared to a record $12,526 per metric ton, creating a premium of over $2,920 per ton compared to the London Metal Exchange. Did you know that the U.S. imports 2/3 of its refined copper, mostly from Chile, Canada, and Mexico? Building new domestic capacity could take years. This means automakers might be forced to pass higher costs on to consumers. So, does paying more for a car seem fair just because of trade policies? That's where the conversation starts. How will these tariffs ripple through your wallet and your choices? Let's break it down. With copper already costly, auto manufacturers like Ford, GM, and Toyota are facing serious financial stress. Melanie White, president of Hellwig Products, shared that steel prices have quadrupled since 2018. Now, copper's joining that party. What's your take on smaller businesses putting off equipment purchases or not rehiring staff to cut costs? This is exactly what's happening. Suppliers have begun asking automakers to pay more, passing along those new tariff costs. Don de Jonge from Benchmark Mineral Intelligence said, "This complicates an already difficult situation. Imagine running a business where your raw material costs spike unpredictably. How would you handle that?" The U.S. Midwest aluminum premium has tripled since Trump took office, highlighting just how volatile things have become. Now, suppliers must negotiate with automakers almost every few months just to keep up with copper price changes. Does this constant renegotiation sound sustainable to you? Experts like Takashi Imamura from Marubeni hope the government will reconsider these tariffs, but until then, auto suppliers are stuck between rising costs and contract commitments. Let's talk numbers because they matter. Before tariffs, steel, aluminum, and copper made up about 5% of a vehicle's production cost. Now, it's up to 9%. What does that mean for your next car purchase? According to Cox Automotive and Benchmark, tariffs could add $1,700 for every US-made car, $3,500 for Canadian and Mexican imports, and up to $5,700 for vehicles from elsewhere. With the average U.S. new vehicle already selling for $46,233 as of June 2025, could this push you to hold on to your current car longer? The copper tariff could directly impact your wallet. Here's something else. Combustion engine cars use around 24 kilograms of copper, while electric cars need nearly 59 kilograms. With electric vehicles growing in popularity, the price of copper could seriously reshape the market. Dan Hirsch from Alex Partners pointed out that auto suppliers are already contacting customers to renegotiate deals because of these jumps. Enjoying this? Tap that subscribe button so you never miss what's next. Now, you might be wondering, why would Trump risk upsetting so many industries right before elections? Well, it's not just about copper. On July 8, 2025, Trump announced not just the 50% copper tariff, but also threatened new levies on semiconductors and pharmaceuticals.
Trump also said on Tuesday that he would be imposing new tariffs on pharmaceuticals of up to 200% unless drug companies, quote, get their act together.
His reasoning: "It's about time the United States of America started collecting money from countries that were ripping us off," he said. But is that the full picture? Yale Budget Lab estimates the effective U.S. tariff rate is now 17.6%, the highest since 1934. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent claimed the tariffs have already brought in $100 billion in revenue, aiming for $300 billion by year's end. But here's the flip side. Wall Street markets reacted sharply. The S&P 500 dropped on July 8th. Do you think collecting tariff revenue is worth market instability? And what about retaliation? The EU is considering countermeasures, warning it won't just stand by. It makes you think, is this a smart negotiation tactic, or is it playing with fire? Either way, Trump's moves have made global headlines, and they're shaking up more than just the metal markets. Let's look closer at why this tariff is even a conversation. The US mines 1.1 million tons of copper per year, but exports a third of it. Meanwhile, it imports 810,000 tons of mostly refined copper. That's a huge gap. Trump signed an executive order stating, "The United States has ample copper reserves, yet our smelting and refining capacity lags significantly." But what's the reality on the ground? Key projects like Minnesota's $1.7 billion Twin Metals mine and Arizona's Resolution Copper project are stalled by legal battles and environmental concerns. So here's the thing. If new mines and refineries take a decade to build, will tariffs solve the problem in the short term? Environmentalists argue against expanding mining, citing risks to irreplaceable national treasures. How do you balance resource security with environmental protection? Rich Nolan from the National Mining Association argues, "Made in America starts with American mining." But until new infrastructure exists, these tariffs mostly just raise costs for businesses and consumers. Let's put it bluntly, not everyone loses from these tariffs. U.S. copper miners like Freeport-McMoRan and Southern Copper stand to gain big. With prices shooting up, their revenues could skyrocket. But how about the rest of us? Goldman Sachs predicts the tariff could add $2,000 per ton in extra costs, hitting construction, defense, and electronics. Can you imagine paying more for everything from your phone to your home's wiring? Analysts also point out the legal question marks. The U.S. Court of International Trade recently challenged Trump's authority to impose some tariffs under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. That means lawsuits could delay or even cancel the tariff. Do you think that's likely? Or will politics push it through anyway? Meanwhile, Citi analysts warn the U.S. might halt all refined copper imports for the rest of 2025, relying solely on domestic production. Sounds risky, right? A tight market could mean shortages, higher prices, and stressed supply chains. Is boosting U.S. mining worth risking everyday affordability for millions of people? Now, let's zoom out. Beyond today's headlines, what's the bigger picture for copper and the auto industry? Demand is expected to double by 2030 thanks to electric vehicles and renewable energy. But tariffs and protectionism complicate things. For instance, while new U.S. mining projects are theoretically possible, processing capacity is still lacking. What's your view? Should the focus be on building smelters instead of raising tariffs? Experts say 900,000 tons per year of new projects must be approved globally just to meet future needs. That's massive. Yet at the Wood Mackenzie Future-Facing Commodities Forum on April 30th, 2025, analysts warn that protectionism creates short-term price volatility. Have you noticed price swings when buying electronics or vehicles lately? That's all connected. Treatment and refining charges for copper concentrate have even gone negative recently, a sign of tight markets. Copper tariffs may boost U.S. mining, but they risk driving up car and electronics prices for millions, from $1,700 to $5,700 per vehicle. With domestic copper capacity years away, is this strategy a smart policy or a political gamble? Share your thoughts in the comments. How would these costs affect your choices? Subscribe now for real-world breakdowns that truly impact your wallet.